This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. We have been here before, but only on a day trip over from Dubai. We've spent quite a bit of time in Dubai, but we've come over here to see the Louvre Museum and the mosques and the palace, that sort of thing. But this time we're staying for several days, so we're here a little bit longer. It's giving us a bit more of a chance to explore. We came here because we had a flight out of here on our way to China, and it's pretty common for us to turn a layover into a little bit of a longer stop. This place, Abu Dhabi, is, as you might imagine, kind of mind-boggling. It's so wealthy. It's a little bit less flashy than Dubai, but it's no less affluent. It's the capital, so you have all of the embassies, but it's also an Emirates with oil money, and that makes it a little bit different than Dubai. Dubai is all about being a place for business. That's where their money comes from. Everywhere we've been in the UAE is really interesting, and Abu Dhabi, it is absolutely fascinating on so many levels.
It's time for your tech tip. Imagine, if you will, a nation gripped by an enthralling, energetic, and downright fun fitness craze. One that, according to its purveyors, quote, combines high-energy dance cardio with strength training, Pilates, hip-hop, yoga, and kickboxing, making it the most exhilarating and effective way to stay fit. I am talking, of course, about Jazzercise. Now, I think their marketing copy was probably a little different in the late 80s, but the appeal was just as strong. And if you were a working mom with big hair and bigger shoulder pads, needed to stay toned for your hectic lifestyle, and lived in our neck of the woods, well, you were in luck, because the local facility offered childcare where you could dump your emotionally unstable toddler, blissfully unaware that he would blame it for his abandonment issues many decades hence. I only have one distinct memory from the Jazzer orphanage, but I don't recall any adult supervision. I think they may have just assumed the older kids wouldn't have let the younger kids do anything too dangerous, or maybe that they'd scream loudly enough if someone did suffer a life-threatening injury. There were boxes of board games on offer, and as luck would have it, whatever 11-year-old was running the show pulled out Twister. After a few rounds, the role of calling out moves fell onto me. I just checked the official Twister rules, and this position is called the referee, but I prefer to call it the Twistmaster General. The problem was that I was too young to know how to read, but I didn't fess up because feet weirded me out and playing Twister was like torture. So I called out random colors and appendages in what I assumed sounded like a reasonable configuration, and it worked for a while, but I must have said something like left knee on purple that gave away my ignorance. I had been found out. The other children were upset that this round had been spoiled by a cheater, and I panicked, assuming that I would be punished for being a liar, perhaps sentenced to hard labor in some kind of Jazzer jail. I just now looked at the spinner board used to select moves in Twister, since I obviously haven't played the game in the intervening 30-plus years, and I have to confess it shouldn't have been that difficult to figure out. I must have been a particularly dull child. But I think it's from this traumatizing event/implanted memory that I developed a confrontational attitude toward reading. Not the crippling panic attack-inducing fear I have of mathematics, just more of a general distaste. If there is an audiobook available, I will choose that every single time. And thankfully, we live in an amazing age where the word and feet phobic among us can get all the information we want piped straight into our ears. Now, I mentioned a service about a year ago called Recast that let you save articles from anywhere and would then summarize them into a short podcast formatted as a two-person discussion that you could listen to in the Recast app or your preferred podcast platform. Sadly, they have closed their doors, so I evaluated a few other options to see what's on offer today. iListen.ai is a platform for listening to articles. You can either paste in URLs or use their Chrome extension to save articles. You can pick from a few voices and select from 3 levels of summarization: brief, overview, and detailed. The summarization feature is a big plus, but in my testing, I found iListen to struggle with some articles. It couldn't parse them in order to create an audio version. And at least as of right now, it doesn't support subscribing in a podcast player. You have to listen through the web interface. Not a deal breaker for everyone, but I prefer to be able to listen from my phone. The pricing for iListen starts at about $5 per month for 50 articles. ArticleReader.ai is another option. It's a mobile app available for iOS and Android and allows you to paste in a URL, send a URL from the share sheet in your browser, or upload a file. Article Reader doesn't do any summarizing. It's a straight reading of whatever you send to it. I found that it did a pretty good job, but occasionally picked up things like related article headlines in the middle of the copy that I wasn't interested in. Article Reader lets you listen to the audio it generates inside of the app, or you can subscribe to a podcast of the articles you send to it in your preferred podcast player, which I very much appreciate. The pricing is $6 per month for 5 hours of audio, or $12 per month for 15 hours of audio. ListenLater.net is another option that just converts the full article to text and allows you to subscribe to a podcast of the articles you send in your preferred app. You do have to email in the URLs of articles you want converted to audio, which isn't quite as convenient as a browser extension or using the share sheet, but ListenLater does some extra processing that seems to do a better job in weeding out extraneous text from articles that you send in. You can also forward in any email, like a newsletter, to have it turned into audio. You can link to a Google Doc or to a PDF in either Google Drive or Dropbox to have it turned into audio, or even email in an image. So if you need to have something like a scanned document read to you, that's an option. Listen Later uses prepaid billing. You get $2 in free credit when you sign up, and then you pay based on AI processing time, which works out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 cents per 1,000 words. Now, none of these options is going to save you from a lifetime of emotional scarring stemming from literacy shaming at the hands of wayward children in the Jazzer dungeon. But if for whatever reason you find it easier to listen instead of read, they may help you stay on top of all those articles you couldn't be bothered to get around to before. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. 2025, it's just around the corner. And here's the deal. It's either going to be a really big year for you, or it's going to be another year where things just more or less stay the same. The difference, I think it comes down to one thing, one goal. Every year, it's easy to let time slip away. You start out with good intentions, a list of ideas, and the enthusiasm to tackle all of them, but then life happens. The distractions creep in, the unexpected client emergencies, the new projects that seem exciting, the day-to-day grind that eats up all of your energy. And before you know it, it's June, and then it's October, and then you realize that nothing significant has changed. It's another year gone, another set of unfinished goals. And so I think that's why focus, it's everything. I encourage you to pick one goal, just one goal, that's all. Make it big enough that it matters, something impactful enough to change things in your business. It should be something that if you accomplish it, it's going to shift the trajectory of your business or your life. Forget this laundry list that too many of us make of half-baked plans. One thing done well, that beats a dozen things left unfinished. So what kind of goal is big enough? What kind of goal has enough impact that it deserves your focus? Well, maybe it's doubling your revenue, or launching a new practice area, or building a team that can operate without you micromanaging every step. Or maybe it's finally implementing that marketing strategy that brings in consistent clients. Whatever it is, it has to be significant. It has to be something that, if achieved, is going to make a very real difference in your practice and your life. And then once you've zeroed in on that goal, once you have that one thing, you take that goal and break it into the 4 quarters of the year and go into detail on the first quarter. Flesh out that first quarter. Break the first quarter into the 13 weekly projects or steps that you're going to take over those first 13 weeks of the year. I think there's a lot of value in seeing the big goal broken into the 4 quarters, and then each of those quarters ultimately being broken into the 13 steps. But go into detail only on the first quarter. You'll worry about the other quarters when the time comes. You don't want to plan in detail too far ahead. Focus on 1 quarter at a time, and for now, focus only on the first quarter. You see the goal. That's your North Star. That's where you're going. But for now, stay focused on the first quarter of the year. Don't worry about the detail of quarters 2, 3, and 4 right now. Stay focused on quarter 1. Make that the focus for the next 90 days. Everything else takes a back seat, and that will get you started moving toward the goal. And then, as we roll into 2025, get busy each week working on the steps that you mapped out to achieve the goal. And as you're moving through those weeks, talk about the progress endlessly. Talk about it to yourself, to your team, to anybody who will listen. Keep that goal front of mind. Know where you're going. Measure it. Adjust when necessary. Keep pushing. Stay focused on the one goal. What you don't want to do is let your focus drift. You need to stay focused on the goal. Check in constantly with yourself and with your team. Are you on track? Are you staying focused on that one goal? The more you track it, the more you talk about it, the more likely you are to keep moving forward. That's how you get things done. You stay focused on a single goal. You'll get a lot more done than you would with the scattered focus, with too many priorities. The power of this idea of focusing on one goal is in its simplicity, in narrowing your focus to what it is that truly matters. When you achieve this goal, and hopefully for you it happens earlier in 2025 than you expect, when you achieve the goal, then you pick another goal and move forward on that one. Keep it simple, keep moving, keep working toward the objective. Make 2025 the year that you stop doing it all and you start finishing what it is that really counts. One goal broken into quarters, tracked relentlessly until it's finished. And then, if you have the time, pick another goal and keep moving. One thing done, it's always better than a bunch of things undone. This year, 2025, pick a goal, get it done, make it count. That's your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Abu Dhabi, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, and getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there. I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on instead of in their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.